Dadwin and Jason Minix talk exclusively with the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, Jason Garrett. Powered by AA Best Bail Bonds. MyBestBailBonds.com.
It is the Blitz 1250 ESPN San Antonio. He's former Cowboy linebacker Dadwin. I'm Jason Minix. Let's talk Cowboys football with the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys. Brought to you by AA Best Bail Bonds. Joining us now, Jason Garrett. And Coach, it's odd not to have Cowboy football on a Sunday. Odd for us sitting at home. How did you spend your Sunday without a game?
You know, we watched a lot of football this weekend. You know, our week last week was quick and short. You know, we played in New York and then came right back and played our Thanksgiving game. And you would think we'd all want to get away from it a little bit, but it's hard not to watch football on each of those days. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, we watched a lot of football, the college stuff the first couple of days, and a lot of NFL yesterday.
Coach, you watch all those NFL games yesterday. Is it different from a coaching standpoint? You watch a lot of cut-ups. Here you get to watch a live game. Does that mentality different for you to watch that game live?
It's a little bit of a different perspective, but, you know, it's an amazing thing. The NFL does such a great job presenting these games, and every one of the games I watched seemed to was coming down to the wire. So it's certainly great for the fans, and it's great for the league. And, you know, it's amazing how when you watch those games, you see teams do the things necessary to win. You see sometimes teams not do the things necessary to win. It's a great reminder for all of us that these games are going to be close every week, and you got to make sure you're doing the right things at the end of these ball games.
Dallas Cowboys head coach Jason Garrett with us here on the Blitz. He joins us every Monday on 1250 ESPN San Antonio. Let's go back to Thanksgiving, Coach. You get the 31-24 win over the Oakland Raiders. They go up pretty early. You had the fumble on the opening kickoff. And, you know, this is a game maybe last year before that, that the Cowboys don't come back and win. What did you learn about your football team on Thanksgiving Day?
Well, I don't know that anything new, but, you know, it just reinforces and reemphasizes the importance of, you know, mental toughness and really focusing on the task at hand. It's a big message that we give to our players, but I think it's so important, you know, from week to week and certainly within ball games. And, you know, we did a good job bouncing back from the early turnover that they returned for a touchdown. And, you know, then they made some plays in the passing game and got ahead by a couple scores. And I thought we did a good job responding to that. We had a good 2-minute drive right before the half to cut it within a touchdown. And really what you got to keep doing is going back to that idea of focusing on what my job is on this particular play and do that again and again and again, and don't worry about what happened in the past or what may or may not happen in the future. And I thought our team did a good job of that. We got some stops on defense. I thought our run defense was outstanding, you know, particularly in light of what happened the week before against the Giants. I thought we responded well against a very good rushing team, one of the best rushing teams in the league, to hold them to 50 yards. So we're getting those stops on defense, and we drove the ball a lot better in the second half. We ran it well, and again, continued to try to take advantage of the opportunity that was in front of us. We cashed in down there in the red zone, kept making stops, and did enough to win the ball game.
Now, there's so many good things out of that game that you mentioned, and you said the scoring right before the half, Coach. And Tony Romo, coming into the game, had some flu symptoms and coming out really the way he played. That last drive, the second quarter into the half, and then the second half, he was 12 for 12. How amazing was that when you talked to Tony, and what was going through the mindset and during that moment of the game?
Well, you know, like you said, he was a little bit under the weather coming into the game, and one of the things that I was hopeful for, you hear a lot of great stories about players playing their best when they're a little bit under weather or not feeling up to par. And, you know, Tony, once the game got going, certainly did that. And like I said, that drive before the half was big for us. He did a real good job moving around, finding the open guy, and really getting us in a position to score. And then we handed it off to DeMarco down in there close. And I think that in a lot of ways got a little momentum going for us. But we still had to go out there in the second half and just continue to drive the football and have success. And, you know, for him to go 12 for 12 in the second half, in and around the success we had running the football, created some great balance for us, great efficiency for us, and allowed us to score all those points in the second half of the game.
Coach Jason Garrett of the Dallas Cowboys with us here on 1250 ESPN San Antonio. Coach, you mentioned the balance in the rushing attack. Lance Dunbar played so well and did such a solid job finishing runs. DeMarco Murray with 3 touchdowns, but Dunbar apparently is going to have surgery. That means you got Philip Tanner and Joseph Randle. Can you continue to have that kind of balance in the run game with Randle or Tanner?
Oh, absolutely. DeMarco Murray is the lead dog and has been all year long, and he's done a great job for us, when he's been healthy. And, early on in the year when he was out, a couple of those other guys did get some opportunities to play for us. So, we think that's a good thing. But, DeMarco's going to be the guy who's going to carry the load, and, whoever else is available, Randall or Tanner, those guys, just when they get called upon, they got to go do their jobs, and they've done that before. Lance Dunbar did a great job of that last Thursday. We're certainly going to miss him. Had a real positive year for us, really took advantage of his opportunities, and he'll be back as good as new once he gets that leg all fixed up. But those other guys will get a chance, and we expect them to go in there and do their jobs.
With Dunbar being out, Coach, and not being there, and he is a dynamic out of the backfield, are you going to try to be more creative and finding another guy that's similar to Lance Dunbar, like a receiver, to be in the backfield to get that mismatch?
Well, I think sometimes you can get those mismatches, whether you line a guy up in the slot or just line him opposite some of your receivers. So, we've done a little bit of that in the past, both with Witten and with some of our receivers. But for the most part, we'll probably line up in more traditional sets, albeit a variety of those sets, and hopefully you can attack teams different ways. We have the kinds of guys who we feel like if they want to try to double a guy or give one guy a lot of attention, we have some other guys who can really be effective in one-on-one coverage, or the guys who get less attention maybe in his own. So, it's Tony's job to find those guys. We'll keep trying to move guys around to get them in the best spots. But if you attack a lot of different ways with a lot of different weapons, typically you play pretty well on offense.
Talking with Dallas Cowboys head coach Jason Garrett here on the Blitz, 1250 ESPN San Antonio. Coach, every coach I know is a creature of habit. You're no exception, but you play Thursday. Now you don't play again until next Monday. The good news is you get that extra time, hopefully get some guys healthy. Can you update the injury status of guys like Sean Lee and Morris Claiborne?
Well, we're hopeful on those guys for this week. They've been working very hard to come back from those hamstring injuries. So, it is a Monday night game. We still have a few days to go before we even get into our practice week, and hopefully those guys will continue to progress. And, we'll take them day by day, make our evaluations, and, again, hopefully those guys will be available to us.
Coach, you talk about process all the time since you've been there as the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys, and a player that you got really was numbers wise because of Andre Holmes, who has a success against you guys the other day for the Oakland Raiders. You see him going to another team and having some success and having a career. Is that rewarding for you as a head coach because you gave him the opportunity to be on the practice squad and to be on the team, give him a chance to really have a career in the NFL?
Well, when you pull back from it, it's certainly rewarding in some sense, but it wasn't rewarding on Thursday. Andre did a really nice job in the ball game, made a lot of big plays for them, and that's what we liked about him. We had him in here for the visit before the draft, and really thought he was a guy that had some potential, and we had a chance to sign him after Minnesota had released him. We felt like he could be a player, and he was with us, for probably the better part of a year on our practice squad, on our active roster, and doing some good things. But we felt just as the whole thing shook out, we had some other guys. He felt like he had a better opportunity. He's gone out there to Oakland and done a really nice job for him. Really impressed with the performance he had the other day. And, he was a kid who had ability. There's no question about that. He was working hard at it. You could see him developing. I think we saw that development the other day during that ball game.
Coach Jason Garrett here on 1250 ESPN San Antonio. Coach, you mentioned a couple of days before you actually get into the practice routine as you get ready for Chicago, but there's some uncertainty as who's going to be under center for the Bears. How does that affect your game planning if you don't know if it's going to be Jay Cutler back in the starting lineup or not for Chicago?
Well, someone asked me that the other day, and I think if Terrell Pryor had played quarterback for Oakland, I think their offensive scheme would have been a little bit different. I think they would have played to some of those quarterback runs and those read option things that they had been very successful with when he was their quarterback. Matt McGloin, more of a drop-back passer. They did some of those things, but we felt like he was going to be more in the pocket. When you evaluate the Bears, I think the two quarterbacks that they play are probably fairly similar in style, both kind of classic drop-back type passers when you compare Jay Cutler and Josh McCown. And those guys seem to play in a similar style. It seems like their offense doesn't change that much when you watch them play with one quarterback versus the other. So, you prepare for both. You prepare for their scheme. You prepare for their weapons around it. And again, I don't think there'll be that much of a difference depending on who's available and healthy to play.
And when you were watching them play yesterday against Minnesota, Coach, I mean, obviously we all know about Brandon Marshall. You know all too well about Martellus Bennett. But then you see Jeffrey go for over 200 yards. Are you sitting there going, man, defense coordinator, we better get to work on this one?
Well, they have some talented guys. There's no question about that. And they have big receivers. They have a big tight end. They have a really good running back who's really a multi-dimensional guy. And, they can beat you a lot of different ways. So, first and foremost, we got to make sure we control that running game. And equally important is not giving them the big plays that they've been able to make. And, those guys are big targets, and the quarterbacks seem to do a nice job giving them chances to make plays over their heads. So that'll certainly be a point of emphasis for us.
Jason Garrett here on 1250 ESPN San Antonio. Coach, before we let you go, and since you did get to spend the weekend watching football in the living room on TV, and I know you're very close with Nick Saban, the decision to go for that field goal, is that one that you would have made?
Well, I would never second-guess Coach Saban. When you look at that play, it really was an amazing play by the Auburn returner. And, clearly they felt like they had a chance to make that kick, and the kick seemed close. But what an amazing return by them. And, we were talking about it earlier. It's arguably one of those handful of plays in college football that will be remembered for a long, long time. The Stanford Cal play, Doug Flutie's Hail Mary, and this one, and maybe a couple others, really in the history of college football will be those plays that we look back on. And you have to give those Auburn guys a tremendous amount of credit. The returner made a great play, and certainly a difference-making play, and changes the complexion of college football. There's no question about that.
Coach, you go through a situation, you practice situation. Is that one of those situations you practice on special teams? That would happen in the games, but it would never happen. If the opportunity comes up for your team, you assume that your team would have that game plan. Do you get that tape against Auburn and Alabama and show it to your team, said this is what we worked on and this could happen?
Well, you really try to do that with so many of these situations that come up, because your point's the right one. You can talk about it till you're blue in the face and try to create these situations in practice. But when you present it, and you present it like it's a real-life scenario, I think it hits home a little bit more. And, we've had a number of those this year with our team that you can reflect back on and show the team and say how we handled it the right way, or maybe we didn't do what we needed to do in this situation. You can learn from it, but you definitely can learn from what happens to other teams as well. And, that's something we try to emphasize, and a lot of it has to do with that situational stuff that you're talking about, not the stuff that happens on first and second down, in the regular, middle of the second quarter, but the stuff that happens at the end of a half or end of a game that really can make a difference in the game. And you're always looking for ways to teach that to your team, and there's no question that's a great illustration of it.
Head coach Jason Garrett of the Dallas Cowboys. I suppose next week we'll talk to you on Tuesday after you go to Chicago and beat the Bears, right?
Well, we're excited about going up there. It'll be a heck of a challenge for us, and getting a chance to play them at their place. Soldier Field's a great place to play, and they're certainly a heck of a football team. So we got to practice well this week and try to go get one.
Coach, always appreciate it.
Okay, guys. Great visiting with you.
Thanks,
great stuff, Coach Jason Garrett. Our conversation with the Cowboys head coach brought to you by AA Best Bail Bonds, 225-2121, 225-2121, or online at mybestbailbonds.com.
Get the latest on your Dallas Cowboys. Jason Garrett, Mondays at 4:30. Powered by AA Best Bail Bonds.